All right, we're live. South China Morning Post, SCMP MMA, the post-fight podcast. I'm Nick Atkin, your host. I'm back with JHK, John Yonko, and Drake Riggs is over here again. Guys, what's up? How you doing?
Good, doing good. Thanks for having me, Nick.
Don't rush to answer at the same time, please.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword when you ask that question, right? You don't want us
Yeah,
to
I
talk
should
over
say
each
it
other.
specifically, like, John, how are you doing? Drake, how are you doing? All right. I'm sorry, I messed up on that one. Well, look, it's the post-fight podcast. We're back. The UFC is back. It's time. I hope you guys have enjoyed your 3 weeks off, your 4 weeks off from UFC, because we're about to have 3 events in 2 weeks, aren't we? So we're picking it up with Max Holloway against Calvin Kattar. That's the main event, Fight Island, this weekend. But we're going to talk about in a minute. But the first thing we're going to talk about is Dana White and Khabib Nurmagomedov. Their big, important meeting they're going to have together. They're going to try and get together in Abu Dhabi, see if they can hash this out. Dana thinks he can convince Khabib to do one more fight to go 30-0. I'm going to bring up an article. I'll throw it to you, John, first. What are you expecting from this meeting? Do you think Dana White can convince Khabib to go one more time in the octagon?
It's hard to say, but I feel like if Habib wants to retire, he's gonna be retired, and I don't even think I think Dana's luring him in to talk about something else, but really he wants to talk about Habib coming back to fight, right? But he's putting other things in the basket to lure him into Fight Island, and that's that's a businessman. That's what he does, and that's what he does best. So we're gonna have to see what exactly happens. But there's a lot of speculation going around, and that's what I want to know is what are these speculations like? Are they gonna offer him this amount of money, which is kind of crazy because like there's some fighters that want to get paid more. They're arguing about this all the time, and they're out in the public talking about it. And then all of a sudden, Habib is about to retire. Dana White wants to throw the bank at him if that's true, which is kind of like spitting in the face of everybody else that wants to get paid more, that are active, that are fighting, that are putting everything on the line themselves. And it's a terrible situation if it comes out later that Dana White offered him like $100 million, $200 million to come back. It's like Tony Ferguson, a dude that has been fighting and putting everything at risk for years and years and years for us and for the UFC, and you guys don't want to pay him a little bit more, and you're gonna throw $100 million, $200 million. Is Habib worth that much money? I don't know. We'll see, but
Well,
there's
look,
that number that's thrown around.
this is the quote. So I think this was an interview with Brett Okamoto on ESPN. I think he should fight again, and I'm going to press him as hard as I can for one more. Drake, do you think it's right for Dana to push him for this? Should he respect Habib's wishes? He obviously retired after beating Justin Gaethje. He said, "I promised my mom I wouldn't fight again after my dad died." What's your take on this?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. It's quite ridiculous. Just looking at Habib alone and the circumstances surrounding him, the fact that this is more of like a family-based thing around him. You got to consider, he lost his father in this whole time and everything. But just taking away the fact that there's all these surrounding pieces to Habib's reasoning for retiring and everything, Dana always says about any fighter, the second that you start talking about retirement or thinking about it, maybe that means you should retire. Not in this case, though, because he still wants to make as much money as he possibly can off of Habib because there's still plenty to be made. So it's just kind of funny to see the hypocrisy there between Habib and then the usual suspects of fighters who Dana believes should be retiring or what have you. So it's just kind of funny to see Dana gonna Dana, I suppose, is coming out. It's like he should know that we remember these things, like it's just really funny and it's pretty silly and ridiculous. And it's funny too, because like John mentioned, how they're gonna throw the bank at him and everything. You would assume, but it's like he's already one of the richest fighters out there, in terms of who the UFC's paying the highest. Like he's one of the few who makes millions per fight, So it's like I don't know.
What about this Eagle Fighting Championship? This thing that he's launched in Russia, I believe. He bought out Gorilla. Is that right? Maybe there's something there. Does Habib want to set up some kind of feeder system, some farm system with the UFC? Some financial benefit there, I'm sure. I don't know. John, you want to take this one?
I don't know. I think anybody could really set up a feeder system to the UFC. You don't have to be Habib and do that, right? I don't think they're gonna make that much money or do that much business by setting up Eagle Fighting Championship and link it up into a feeder system. That's what M1 Global is doing, right? M1 Global is sending all of their champions. They have some kind of contract with the UFC, sending all their champions to the UFC, and some of them have done well, some of them have not done so well. And there's a bunch of others. There's LFA in the States, right? There's LFA, there's like Titan, there's all these others like promotions that are unofficially the feeder systems, right, for the UFC. So I don't see that being like a big I don't know, a big like benefit for either party, as in discussion wise. Maybe UFC Fight Pass or whatever, but that doesn't really make a huge difference. I mean, you could be any promotion. There's promotions all around the world with UFC Fight Pass deals. You don't have to have the big balls of Habib to walk into a room to get that deal done, right? So it's weird. It's weird, like what exactly they're gonna talk about, and the speculation of like this promotion being linked with UFC. I don't think there's anything to it. I think that's just people just trying to create something, right? But Dana White, he just want to throw money, dude. He wants to bring in the biggest fights, and I think that he's gonna offer some incredible fights to him, and I think that's what's gonna bring him back. I mean, I don't. A lot of people talk about the GSP fight, but every day that passes, that is like a lesser and a lesser possibility of ever happening. And I'm looking at it as like a 10% chance of ever happening now. And every day that passes, it goes lower and lower and lower, right? Because GSP doesn't look like he's gonna be fighting anytime soon, right? He's doing Budweiser commercials. Come on, if you're doing Budweiser commercials, you're not gonna fight anytime soon.
Well, didn't he just say that he doesn't miss fighting anymore? He misses winning, but he doesn't miss fighting. He like just said that like yesterday or something. So I think he's
Do you want to see it, Drake? Do you want to see
I would
GSP?
love to. I would absolutely love to see that, man. I think you're lying if you don't want to see that fight right now. I mean, if you wait a little bit longer, then sure, I understand that. But GSP versus Habib, like, that's the only guy that I'm willing to bet on against Habib right now and maybe ever. GSP is the perfect style, size, like everything goes in his favor to be the guy, unsurprisingly, to be able to give Habib his first and only loss, right? But yeah, it's not going to happen at this point, unfortunately. And another thing is, like, we got to remember he's really retired. Like, he's the testing pool retired, which is when you're really retired. So you have to realize, all right, we are waiting to get this ball really rolling, like John mentioned. But once we do, then we have to wait another 6 months for him to get back into testing and everything. So it's past the point of no return, I think, at this point. And that's really, Habib has been a guy who I believe will stick to his guns for the most part when it comes to, I don't need to fight this guy, or he doesn't care about, he wants a challenge. And like, that's the last guy for him to possibly have a really crazy challenge against, where people will think, oh, maybe GSP could beat him, even though GSP's older now and everything. But Dana continues to mention how big the Conor rematch will be. Don't think Habib cares about that, right? So it's such a weird spot for him to I don't know what he could throw at him specifically, especially in terms of actually fighting, Habib fighting himself. So
are we doing this then at lightweight? Can Habib make lightweight again? Can GSP make lightweight? We saw Habib struggle in Abu Dhabi. I know he had a lot of things going on. I think he had a broken toe going in. There was some shenanigans maybe on the weight scale that were well documented. I will not repeat them, but yeah, where do we do this fight? Do we do catch weight? Does Habib still give up the lightweight belt? If you're UFC, John, are you going to just move the belt on anyway? And if you give Habib GSP, you can do some kind of gimmick with it and just get things moving in the 155 division.
My wild prediction, right, is Dana White's going to meet Habib this week. And
that is wild.
If whoa. and if he can't convince Habib to come back, then he's going to put that title on the line for 257. That's what's going to happen. I think they're waiting until Dana's waiting until he talks to Khabib and figures out exactly what Khabib's, face to face. Talking on the phone and emails and through the media is different from face to face. So once they get in there face to face and talk, and Khabib tells him like, Dana, I'm not fighting anymore. I'm tired of Smash. I'm tired of Smash. Right? Like I'm done. Right? I'm focusing on my country. I'm focusing on my gym, my organization. I'm gonna create the next Habibs. Coming down the line. And once Dana hears that from his mouth, from him, himself, I think Dana's gonna put that belt on the line. McGregor, Poirier, and Dana wants McGregor with that belt. That. That's just, if you don't know that by now and you're watching this sport, then you might as well just start watching like cricket or something, right? Come on. It's like, what's the point? But yeah, like but you know what though? Also, I was thinking while you guys were talking that Dana might propose something to Khabib, and Andrew Carnegie in the comments, he was mentioning that him moving up to welterweight and going for that champ status, right? But the thing is, you got Kamaru Usman, who's the champ, and he's gonna fight Gilbert Burns, right? And whoever wins that belt, I don't think that they have the resume or the popularity to make it this huge, massive event, right? Where Khabib moves up. I felt like if Jorge Masvidal was holding that welterweight title, and Khabib and Dana White offered Khabib to move up and fight, that would be one of the craziest pay-per-views in the history of this organization. But it's not that situation. You got Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns, guys that their resumes are great and they're great fighters, but it's not, the popularity's not there. It's not the money-making, situation that Dana White wants. But you never know. Khabib is Khabib, so maybe he can carry the pay-per-view on his own, and they're gonna promote it as Khabib going for the champ status, and that could be a possibility in the negotiations this week. But Khabib might just tell him like, "Shut up! Like I'm not doing that. Like I already did what I wanted to do. I'm not gonna fight Usman. I think they're kind of close themselves, right? Him and Usman. So
they're both Ali guys too, right?
Yeah, they're both Ali guys. But Ali will be like, Khabib, come on. If I was a manager, I would be, let me just be realistic. You know what I mean? If you're a manager and two of your fighters are the best in the world and they could make a lot of money fighting each other, you probably want them to fight each other. You know what I mean? Like, and you're going to benefit too. And it's not like you're just thinking of yourself. You've built these guys up, dude. Like you're the manager. You negotiate their contracts to a certain point. And as a manager, as like a father figure for these guys, you want them to fight each other. You want to see who's the best. You want one of these guys to become the creme la creme or whatever you want to call it, right? So I don't know. It's there's a lot of possibilities, and Dana White. Dana White is he's one of the GOATs in negotiating. I feel like in combat sports, probably in the history of combat sports, he's probably one of the best at negotiating and getting what he wants out of every deal. I think that Dana White has a plan, and his plan, we're going to find out. At the end of this week, we're going to find out exactly what's going to happen with that belt. And I'm picking that 257, this is my prediction, 257 is going to be on the line. At the end of this week, they're going to promote it. They're going to be like, hey, everybody. Because did you see that tweet from the UFC, official UFC Twitter account? They're promoting the fight.
You can go message it right now. You can do it and it'll say it right now.
Exactly, man. Like,
what is it? Some kind of bot that replies to you?
Yeah, on the official UFC account. Yeah, on Twitter. In the DMs.
Well, the gist of it was, I believe that, the title might be on the line. They just had to delete that quickly. Is that what you're saying? So we could see Conor v. Dustin for the title. I'll bring that article back up that we were just looking at a bit earlier, because Dana says as much. I think you can see him really salivating over this one. No matter what you think of Conor personally, Conor McGregor is not only one of the best in the world, but one of the best to ever do it. Right now, he's as focused as he's ever been. I don't know if this is going to be the same Conor after the Poirier fight. Like you said, Conor goes like this, makes up and down hand gesture. But if this Conor sticks around for the next year, how do you not do Conor v. Khabib again? The division is stacked with tough guys. The reality is that if Khabib does retire, then whoever the highest ranked guy is at the time will end up facing Conor if Conor beats Poirier. and would fight for the title, I'm sure. So look, it sounds like it's almost an afterthought for Dana White already that Conor McGregor is going to beat Dustin, and he's already thinking, I want that belt on Conor. Whatever happens, it's either going to be Khabib Conor, or who is it? If it's not Khabib, if he does hang up the belt or hang up the gloves, where do you go? Who's the other guy who fits into this puzzle? I'll go
The
to
co-main
Drake.
event.
The co-main?
Yeah.
Do you think? What about Oliveira? What about Gaethje? Are they still in the mix?
Oliveira, yes. Gaethje, he's coming off a loss, so I'd figure that you'd want to put somebody in there if they're going to fight for a title. Because Dana White did say that the winner would get a title shot, right? The main event winner, if it's not for the title. So I figured like the winner, if Poirier wins, then it's a different situation, right? We could possibly see, if Poirier wins, we could possibly see a rematch just because the UFC loves Conor McGregor, and if Poirier wins, it'll be 1-1, and we'll just see the automatic rematch, the trilogy, and then they would put the title on the line for that one.
Oh my God.
Do you understand me? Like, we've seen crazier things happen in this organization, right? And I feel like that could be something we see. If Poirier goes in there and snipes Conor McGregor in the first round, finishes him by strikes for the first time, or maybe he hits the gilly, you never know, right? Because he's good at that. Why not? You know what I mean? Why not put the rematch? And you know what? I think all the lightweights in the division, they will be angry, but they will understand because they know that it's Conor McGregor. It's red panty night. You know what I mean? I talked to Dan Hooker. He understands it completely. He's all like, you're only going to make money two ways. You fight Conor McGregor or you're the champ. So, what do you pick? You know what I mean? So that's my situation. I think that's what they're gonna do if it turns into that.
Well, we got a comment here from Pugaru saying, I'm more excited for Hooker Chandler than McGregor Poirier. Drake, what are you looking forward to next the most on 257, that co-main event or the main event? What's the real fight there? I know there's a lot of people who were commenting on Dan Hooker interview, which John did, which was incredible. Thank you,
Excellent.
John. Really blowing up the channel. Go check it out, guys. We're pushing up to like 80,000 views. Gained a whole bunch of subscribers off it. Superb stuff. But yes, what is your fight of the night, 257, Drake?
I might agree with Puguru, man. I have wanted to see Chandler in the UFC for so long now that, like, for me, it's more of that getting to see this guy finally in the UFC rather than who it's against. Like, just as he could be fighting a potato, and I'd be like, hell yeah, I cannot wait for Chandler versus a potato, man. But he's fighting Dan Hooker, even better, man. That's awesome. So I might agree with him here, as much as I am very excited for the McGregor-Poirier rematch. I think it's going to be very much different. Should be a better fight overall. Not hard to top that first one anyways. Wasn't very long. But just Dan Hooker's always in exciting fights. Chandler's always in exciting fights. It's a very interesting stylistic clash. And Chandler's first fight in the UFC, I mean, just as somebody who has been, watching MMA worldwide on a global scale for such a long time and following Chandler's, journey and seeing him become one of the best fighters never to fight in the UFC and just one of the best lightweights in the world. Like, I love when these guys get their chances to finally, prove that they can hang with the big dogs or, the UFC guys, which everyone says, no matter who else the other promotion is. So I might agree with him on that one. So, yeah.
Well, I got to say, John, your interview was fantastic with Dan Hooker. If you haven't seen it, people watching, please go look at it. But you started a bit of a war of words. Michael Chandler hit back on Twitter. I don't know if you saw this. He directly referenced this line that Dan Hooker said to you about he's going to break the new toy. And Chandler says,
look what you did, John.
Yeah, starting a bit of beef there, huh? This is a new toy and maybe unsafe for some users. So clearly Michael Chandler he got wind of whatever it was Dan was saying there. I don't know. It's a tough fight to call. I know we don't want to give our predictions too early. It is another week away, week and a half. So maybe we'll keep on Kattar and Holloway for now. We'll do a full preview, I guess, myself and Chris on Thursday. But I'll get a quick prediction from you, John. Who are you going for in that main event?
in the main event between McGregor and Poirier?
Oh no, I was gonna go for this weekend. Sorry, just
Oh,
to
this
keep it
weekend.
on track.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Kattar versus Holloway. I was zoning out for some reason because Henry Ford is
Right.
back.
Oh
Henry
yeah.
Ford. We haven't seen him in a while. Shout out to Henry Ford. He's back. I love the picture. Great profile right there. Anyways, the inventor of the automobile.
Yes, of course.
The innovator, right? And uh, this weekend, man, it is a tough choice right here, right? These guys, high volume strikers, guys are very technical with their boxing. You'd have to give the power edge to Kattar, right? Kattar has shown that he can smoke people, he can starch people, and he also has shown that he could out punch people too with volume, right? And finish people late. And one thing that another aspect that I like about Kattar is that he throws elbows, and one thing Holloway rarely does is throw elbows, right? But the thing is, Holloway kicks more, right? He kicks more. He uses the kicks to set up his punches, and those dynamics are interesting, right? The elbows versus the kicks, right? Who can utilize those better? Because both those guys can box, right? And I think Max has a good enough chin to where even if Kattar lands hard, Max can take it. Because Max went up to lightweight and took punches from Dustin Poirier, right? And just ate those. And he was rocked, but he fought through him, man. Yeah, and he was bad, but I feel like he could take the same punches, man. I don't really, to be honest with you, I'll be surprised if there's a finish in this fight. And I feel like if there is a finish in this fight, I see Max submitting Kattar, like late in the championship rounds or something like that, right? Late in the fourth or the fifth. But that's probably like a 10% chance of happening. I see this fight standing. These guys are going to punch each other's faces open, and we're going to get one of those wars. I think one of those wars, those classic wars for the featherweight division. And I'm slightly edging towards Holloway. I feel like Holloway, just his experience, man. I feel like that experience of 5-round fights and the experience of the level of fighters that he has faced and beaten, it's just makes me point towards him. But if Kattar did go in there and knock out Max Holloway, I wouldn't be surprised either. You know what I mean? Like, Kattar is a monster. And one thing about Kattar is he's still a guy that's rising up the ranks. And we're going to see him much longer in this division, I think, than we'll see Max Holloway. I feel like Max Holloway's days as a featherweight are kind of numbered. You know what I mean? Even if he wins this fight, you know, he'll probably chase after the belt one more time. If he doesn't get that belt, we could see him up at lightweight, fighting at lightweight. And he could have even a better career at lightweight. We don't even know yet, you know what I mean? Because there's guys that have done that. Poirier's doing it right now, right? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, my early pick for this fight is Max Holloway by decision, but we're going to see a fight of the year.
Okay, well, Drake, I'll get your pick as well. But also, as Andrew is asking here on screen, who do you guys think? One, Holloway or Volkanovski? Two, is Max Holloway aggrieved, Drake, to not be having the belt around his waist right now? You know, we're digging up old stuff, but it's still big. It's still big news. You know, everyone says, a lot of people said he was robbed, including Dana White. Is this unfair on Max to not be the champion going into this fight this weekend?
No. I scored that fight, I think, the last 3 rounds for Volkanovski, so 3, 4, and 5. I hate the Rory claims, because any fight that is that close, no matter if you think Max edged it out, it was still very close, right? Like, you cannot call fights like that a robbery, no matter, you know, who you think won it. If it was that competitive, not a robbery. Yeah, that fight's a weird one, though, because I totally understand it going both ways and everything. But the thing about that fight, I think that a lot of people, it kind of incoherently, might be the right word to use here, it made us see how people really want or just naturally look at fights and score them, maybe unintentionally, with like the global rule set like that Ryzen does, right? Where not round by round, because you look at that fight and who landed the better shots and did the more damaging strikes overall. You could say it was definitely Holloway in those first 2 rounds where, you know, he dropped Volkanovski and everything. But then you look at those last 3 where Volkanovski came on and he won those rounds. But if you take that fight as a whole, not round by round, yeah, it's probably a lot more clear for Max. But that's not how the fight scored. So if you look at it, break it down round by round, I felt like it was Volkanovski. You know, of course, very, very close. It could go to either guy, but it was just funny how a lot of people, like in their arguments, pointed out, yeah, but look at how badly Holloway hurt him in the first 2 rounds. Like, okay, well, stuff happened after that, and the fight is broken up into 5 different parts. So I just think that's a very interesting observation I took away from the aftermath of that fight. But not a robbery, too close to be a robbery. I understand both cases for either guy, but I scored it for Volkanovski. Yeah, what about you guys?
Well, you spoke to Volkanovski, didn't you, John? You had a good interview with him last week as well, and he had a message for all the haters, didn't he? He was very specific. I think it involved the double birds to anyone who says he's not the real champion.
Yeah, he has a chip on his shoulder. That's very rare for a champion, right? When you're the champion, everybody's like chasing after you, but it seems like he has a chip on his shoulder just from speaking to him earlier last week or whatever. And yeah, man, like I feel like this fight coming up with Brian Ortega is going to be a great fight, man. Brian Ortega is going to bring it, and he's become more technical in his approach, and I've talked to his coach and like off the record, talked to his coach about like this development and stuff like that, and it's just phenomenal to see, you know what I mean? Because at first you never, before the zombie fight, everybody was just like, what are we gonna see from Brian Ortega? And then he just went out there and did he Peter Panned us, right? Like he just went out there and did some magical stuff, right? Just, you know, everybody was shocked, and his coach was telling me, man, that's level 1. That's not even level 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just level 1 we're seeing from Brian Ortega, and I love that, because if Volkanovski's leveling up and Ortega's leveling up, we're gonna see a high level fight in this one, man. It's not like the old Ortega where he's just going out and trying to get the finish. It's the smarter, more dangerous Ortega, and if Volkanovski can beat the more smarter, more dangerous Ortega, that's a big win on his belt, especially defending the belt, right? So we'll see what happens with this. I heard that they're close to getting it signed, though. Like the date is they're gonna lock it down soon. So we'll see what happens. I like Volkanovski. I like Ortega, and everybody that's talking about we need to see the trilogy between Max Holloway and Ortega. Come on, chill on that. Like, chill, dog. You know, like chill. You know, like
We just saw it twice.
yeah, we just saw it twice in a row, man. We need to like chill out. I'm all for fighters fighting each other, but like, there's other guys that deserve a spot. You know, deserve a shot. Let those guys, you know, get their shot, and then if Max wins a couple, or maybe just even wins 2 in a row, and then you run it back. But man, you got other guys there. Yeah, you know who got really like kind of screwed, and it's almost his own fault, is Zabit. Like Zabit should actually be fighting for the title right now, to be honest with you, but he just decided to sit out and not fight. And he did have the Yair Rodriguez fight, but it's like, okay, Yair is not gonna fight somebody else, man. Like you just sat out for the whole like a year and a half now, and everybody's forgot about you. Everybody's like, who's Zabit? Nobody knows who Zabit is now. Well, actually, no, that's just overstating, right? But like people forget, you know what I mean, like who you are. And I was talking to some other featherweight, and he was saying the same thing. Like, where is Zabit, man? I think Volkanovski was saying that. Like he was saying it himself. Like Zabit should be fighting for the title next, but since he just sat out and didn't fight, his spot was taken by Ortega, and we'll see what happens. But
All right, well,
yeah, this. Go ahead.
I got to get to this burning question. Sorry, Paguro.
Yeah, let's get to some questions, man. It seems like there's
a
bunch of
you've asked
There's
this
a
one
civil
3
war
times.
going on in the chat.
Yes, must remind you all. Please keep it friendly in the chat.
Uncivil.
We're just here to chat about MMA. No,
nah,
insult,
just do whatever
like
you want in there, man. Just keep going.
Just be nice to each other. Play nice. Okay, Paguru saying, does another McGregor loss destroy Conor's box office drawing ability after 2 high-profile losses to Diaz and Khabib, as well as the Floyd KO? Drake, go to you.
I don't think so. Just because it's Conor, and this guy is gonna have diehard fans no matter what. I think that he'd have to go out there and get like very embarrassed for his stock to drop a whole lot. Even though it's interesting because the Cerrone fight, the numbers on that, what he released were like 1.3 pay-per-view buys or whatever, which that's very good, right? But I feel like that's a little bit low for Conor. I mean, at least if you look at his fights before that and more recently and everything, which there was a lot more buzz and the rivalry too, though. So I guess it's kind of a grain of salt thing when you look at it that way, but. That just seemed low when I initially glanced over it that way. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's funny to say that over 1 million is low for anybody, but Conor has reached that status where that wasn't his best number, which is something to look at. But then after getting that win, it's kind of erased everybody's thoughts of what happened directly before that. So another loss here destroys drawing ability. I don't think so. I think it would have to be really bad. He's one of those fighters who I think is pretty untouchable. Like, he would have to lose a lot in a row, and that doesn't really happen with Conor yet. Maybe we could be on that track, but again, he doesn't fight that often, so I think he'll be fine. If I had to bet, I think he'll definitely be okay no matter what happens.
I don't think he's going to lose anyway. I think he's going to
there's
win.
that too.
So, yeah. Yeah, he was talking today. I think they released part of Countdown a bit early, and there was a quote from Conor saying something along the lines, I'm going to smoke him in 60 seconds. A lot of confidence, John, isn't it, from Conor? But that's what you get with Conor. Do you even countenance the possibility of him losing this fight?
Of course. There's a huge possibility of him losing this fight. I feel like right now, Poirier is probably the most dangerous he's ever been. And if Conor can match that dangerous ability, I just made that word up. It's a toss-up. I look at that fight as a toss-up. Like, I feel like Conor, man, I was watching Dan Hardy's breakdown of that fight, and Dan Hardy, man, that guy, he can break down fights, man. I'm jealous of him when I watch his The War Room, his podcast that he does, and he just goes in deep into the fights, about like 30 minutes deep, 45 minutes deep into some fights, and he was pointing out some good factors where he makes you run away from the left hand, but actually it's fooling you. It's like an illusion, and I think that it doesn't matter what anybody does. I think Conor's just gonna have the same game plan. That's why being his coach is probably the easiest thing to be, is because Conor just is Conor. Like, he's gonna do what he wants to do. You know what I mean? The coach is there to kind of remind him, but it's not like he's going to give him like instructions between rounds. Have you ever seen his coaches give him instructions, like constructive instructions between rounds? I don't think I've ever seen that. I just seen them give him like words of encouragement. And every fight is different, right? Not every fighter wants to hear like strategic advice between rounds, but Conor's going to go in there. That left hand, it's all that left hand. That's what it is. It's all about the left hand. It's all about the kicks. And if Poirier can go in there, and I feel like the calf kicks are going to be key for Poirier. If Poirier can go in there and establish the calf kicks and punish, like how Horiguchi did to Kaya Sakura, exactly the same thing. If Poirier can go do that in the beginning of the fight in the first round, I see Poirier knocking him out, submitting him, taking him to the ground. Like, that would be a big possibility in finishing that round in like the second or third round if he could hurt that calf early. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that has to be something. And you know what's funny? Horiguchi and Poirier have the same coach.
Oh, connections.
Also,
Mike Brown.
I'm making like these lines connect. You know what I mean? Like, it's like that meme of what's his name from Hangover, the fat guy,
Alan,
and he's like, Alan, and he's like all
on.
this stuff going on when he's gambling. It's like that, right? So like, yeah, man. Like, I see that, man, and you know, if I was gonna bet, of course I'm gonna bet on Conor in this matchup because he has one win over him. He has the knockout, extreme confidence, and that left hand is laser. Yeah, but I'm thinking it's a toss up, man. It all depends. You know what? If I was gonna bet, I would watch the first round first, and then see what happens. Then I would put my bet in. That's what I would do, because you know Conor doesn't have finishes. I don't think he even has a second round or third round finish, right? All of his finishes are in the first round.
The Mendez and Alvarez ones were
okay.
round.
That's right. Second rounds, right? But
and
other
even
than that,
Seaver made it to the second round, actually.
Yeah, third round, fourth round. So if you're a betting man, I think Dustin Poirier if you're gonna bet on Dustin Poirier, 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round submission, you know what I mean, something like that. I think that would be a big possibility. If it's 1st and 2nd round, of course, it's Conor. But I'm probably just repeating probably like 50 million handicappers and bettors and breakdown specialists. So
they're like, this isn't science, John.
Well, we can talk about Conor till the cows come home. I'm sure we will talk about Conor and Dustin a lot over the next week.
The cows can stay out. They can party.
We had some more questions here. If anyone else watching, you have any questions, please do ask them. I think we will. Oh God, it's another Conor question. Okay, let's do this one while we're on Conor. We'll get to the other ones after. Do you guys think minimal fans helps Poirier and hurts Conor? Conor seems to feed off the energy. Poirier, other fighters seem to suffer from the pressure of Conor's fan base. Yes, I'm going to throw it to you, John. I do think Conor feeds more off the fans, and Dustin has fought once, hasn't he, already, with no fans that win against Dan Hooker. Is that some kind of edge? But there's going to be, sorry, I'm talking complete bullshit. There's going to be like how many fans there? They're going to let some in, aren't they? So,
yeah, I think it's already sold out.
But is it like the whole?
No, it's gonna be it's gonna be half.
It's gonna be social distancing going on, right? But
yeah,
I don't think it matters. I don't think it really matters. I think even if you even have half the stadium filled, it benefits Conor. You know what I mean? Just to have people there kind of giving that energy to him. And it also benefits Poirier too at the same time. It's not like it's just benefiting one person and not benefiting the other. You know what I mean? It's not like he has the Irish like at the stadium. How many people from Ireland are going to be on a fight island? It's probably.
I can't imagine anybody. Honestly, anybody flew in there like with this limited time and everything. It doesn't make any sense to me. They have to be people that are on.
And you have to be paid. You have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be moneyed up like crazy to go out there and stay in hotels and pay for the tickets and do the quarantines and pay for the COVID tests and all that. Like you got to be paid. Like there ain't dudes like that. I think a lot of the people in Ireland was like spending their life savings to go to Vegas and watch Conor fight, right? So, like there would be a small percentage that would be able to have that much money to go over there and do it. So I don't think it's a factor. I feel like there's enough fans there for both of them. And most of the fans are not going to be like rabid fans. They're going to be fans that are just kind of like chilling out, because they're like sophisticated. They spread Grey Poupon on their sandwiches. Like they're those types of people. And they're not going to be out there screaming and yelling, right? They're going to be out there enjoying the festivities, right? They'll be doing these claps.
Golf clapping.
Yeah, maybe do golf claps.
The Nicole Kidman one.
Yeah, or these ones, right? They're like, right? So, I don't think it's a big factor. I think, I've spoken to a few fighters that are going to be fighting on these cards coming up, these three events, and they're happy, man, that there's actually people going to be out there, kind of watching them and oohing and eyeing and stuff like that. They're really happy about that. And they should be, right? But I don't think it's a big factor. I don't think it's going to play a big role. I actually spoke to Michael Chiesa yesterday, and that should be up soon. And he said that the last time he fought was with fans, and he missed out the whole year with no fans, and he's coming back with fans. So it doesn't really affect him, man. And he said he's a competitor, so it doesn't matter to him. It's like, it is what it is. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to fight in the main event against Neil Magny. It's me and him, it's not me, him, and his family out there, right? So it is what it is, right? So I don't think so. I don't think it's a big factor. Do you think Drake, is it Conor? Is he gonna be like going out there and he doesn't hear his little minions out there like, and then he's gonna be like, oh, my feelings are hurt, right? Like, is that what he's gonna do?
No, I don't think so. That would be funny. I hope he does that. No, man, I was thinking, and I think we talked about it on here when I invaded the show for the first time, but when I thought that it would be a bigger deal to have the empty crowd for a Conor fight, because you got to think about when you get these big, full arenas and all that energy, you're not just facing Conor, you're fighting the crowd as well, because everybody, I don't think anyone's ever not been in his corner, except maybe the momentum shifts of like the Diaz fight and everything like that. I was pretty split at that time, but it's a different fight feel for Conor fights, and you're not just going against him, you're going against everybody, and he thrives off of that and kind of makes it feel like an enemy territory thing. With no fans, I was thinking like, all right, that's going to be gone. Everything's going to be a little bit more comfortable. Of course, there's always pressure no matter what. A little bit. People can say there's not, but there is, especially in these big fights and everything. And just when you look back, comparing the first one to now, they've both matured a whole lot. Dustin in particular and everything. He admits that he was very emotional. You can just see it when you look back at everything leading up to that fight, the fight itself. I think, he's had pretty much a full career on top of the career he already had since then and everything. So I don't think, even if things were fully normal, he would have been pretty fine this time. But my initial thought was, all right, the lack of crowd takes a little bit something away from Conor this time around. And then thinking about, is he going to talk shit? Are they going to talk shit in the cage and like we'd be able to hear it and everything? Like, how is Conor going to, that's the interesting thing about how Conor would play with this, which I'm sure he still will, and especially with a little bit of a crowd cheering him on and, making some additional energy. But I don't know. I think it's always an interesting dynamic, but I don't think it'll be too big of a factor in these circumstances.
Okay, well, Guru is very, very keen for us to turn the conversation to the potential atomweight division in UFC. So we're going to get to that one. Just one more. We got our final Conor thing, and then we'll leave Conor alone. It's from Draco Rex. Is Conor really that hungry still with 100 million in the bank? Is he going to do the work? In my opinion, he's looked worse ever since the Floyd fight. I don't think that's a coincidence. We'll do this one quickly. Drake, is he still motivated?
I mean, he's getting in there to fight, so I think so. He looks like he's in pretty good shape and everything. I think that he is always motivated to become the champion again, but that's it. I have zero faith. Let's assume that this fight ends up being made for the title. He wins the belt. He's gone. He's not defending that thing. He's fucking proven that he does not defend titles in his career, man. It's a joke, and if you believe he will, you're more crazy than a lot of his fans are. Like, that's the one reason. I have nothing wrong with Conor being champion as long as he ends up being a champion, right? This guy has proven that he takes the belt and then he gets stripped of it because he goes and does other things. Just annoying from the purist like fan perspective. I don't like it. It just bothers them, especially when they let him hang on to it for so long. Like, this division has always been too good to let that happen, and to do it right now, let's please not do that. But he's not a guy who defends. He wants to get it, say he did it, and then he's content. So that's where I think he's at.
All right, then we'll do this one quickly as well. Dana White deciding to start the atomweight division in UFC. Will people call him out for saying UFC has the best atomweights in the world unless he signs Hamasaki and Ham? Well, I think we discussed it a little bit on some of our Rising chats, but we do have Mr. Rising expert Drake here. So Drake, you're going to take the floor here. Can Dana say he's got the best division if he doesn't sign Hamasaki? And it looks like Ham is off to one championship, so he's not going to get her. How can you promote a division without some of these? There are better atomweights out there, aren't there, which he will not be able to get.
Yeah, well, first of all, yes, I've talked about this topic to death now. I've done it so many times, and I actually have a specific video coming out for everybody on the Body Lock this week, which you can check that out if you want to hear me really go into more depth about it. But I'm repeating myself at this point. No, absolutely not. Dana White cannot say that he has the best UFC atomweight. He doesn't have the best atomweights in the world if he doesn't have Hamasaki and Ham. Anybody who knows anything about the division and the fighters will know that it's just complete, promotional. Yeah, they're saying it to sell themselves. It's not true. But the best way to make it so people would think, okay, maybe they do, is which I'm sure that they would try and push things in this direction, is to have somebody from strawweight drop you down who doesn't normally fight at atomweight, hasn't fought all these other atomweights, have them become champion. Let's say Loma ends up going down and becoming champion. Somebody who is a total atomweight. Her career has been at atomweight until she came to the UFC because they don't have atomweight. She wins. You can argue then, they could argue, oh, we got the best atomweight now, without seeing this evidence that she's been beaten by the actual best, right? So that's a masking technique I think that they could do. But either way, I'm not going to believe it. I don't think anybody else will believe it, as long as Hamasaki and Ham are not involved, because those are literally the best ever. And so it's just factually not true, but they would try to sell it that way.
You know what? It would be really, really messed up if they did bring in an atomweight division when Loma, she was an atomweight and that moved up to strawweight and spent the last year bulking up to become bigger to adjust her body to strawweight, and then they come in and say, "Oh, we're gonna throw in a atomweight division now." Man, that's kind of shitty, right? For them to do that to her and then tell her
with Jin too.
Yeah, and Jin too, and have them say oh, we want you to go back down to atomweight because we need you in that division now. It's like, what? What are you doing?
That's why it doesn't make sense that he's all of a sudden entertaining this. Like, just everything about it really doesn't make any sense to me right now, aside from getting people's hopes up like he's doing. It's weird. I don't get it.
Well, the question was like, is it this or is it that? And then he went with the one that would get people talking and would get people kind of opening the doors to like this conversation that something is possible in the new year, but really it's not possible because he's been doing that to us with the Ultimate Fighter for 2 years now.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the same thing.
And he didn't even really answer that question from the schmo either. He was like, I don't know. They're both pretty terrible. It's like terrible. I don't know what.
It's like asking you, Drake, if I asked you, it's like, is it Rosie O'Donnell or Oprah Winfrey? It's like, I don't know. Exactly. Like, okay, Oprah Winfrey, right? It's like, come on. Who do you choose? Who's your best?
You get atomweight. You get atomweight.
Exactly. So it's if they did bring it in, it would be really terrible for like some of these atomweights that actually bulked up and got bigger to be in strawweight, and then now they're told to go back down, and it's like, oh, we got the PI to help you out and to do that. It's like nobody likes losing weight. Nobody likes losing. Everybody knows that, right? It's like it's no secret, right? Gaining weight, it's okay, it's fun. Like you get to eat delicious things, right? But losing weight, nah, that's not fun. So I don't know what they're gonna do about it. But hopefully, now at this point, it's like I hope they don't even do it. I hope like the other promotions have atomweights and let them fight. And let them give opportunities in these other promotions and send them to Ryzen, send them to Invicta, right? And just let them do what they do over there and let them grow and become stars under those promotions. And eventually down the line, as the division gets stronger, tougher, bigger, then you bring in an atomweight division. But right now, I don't think so. I think that they should probably, there's other divisions that they could bring in, right? Not women's division. I'm talking about the men's division. That it probably make more sense, because of how many fighters there are around the world to build a division. But that's a whole other conversation. Let's go to the next question, man.
Yep. All right. Quick one from Andrew. This won't be too hard to answer. Where are you guys based? HK US. Hello from Australasia. And thanks for doing the live chat. And your MMA content is great. Keep up the great work, fellas. Thank you, Andrew, for watching and interacting with us. I'm in Hong Kong. John's in South Korea and Drake is in the US. I'm not entirely sure which part. I know it's near, or he supports
Washington State.
There you go. Yeah,
near Canada,
on the West Coast.
There we go.
All right, and also don't forget, we like to promote our page, but we also like to give love. So go and subscribe to the Body Lock. Drake does a bunch of stuff over there, and go subscribe to Drake's page too. His YouTube page, Drake Riggs. He's got a bunch of content over there. He has Broaden Horizons on there. When's the next Broaden Horizon? Do you have that scheduled, Drake?
Working on first episode of 2021 right now, so that should hopefully a month. Don't have a definitive time right now, but yes, it is in the works, of course, always.
All right, good. Looking forward to it.
Man C asking, will the UFC book Shevchenko versus Nunes in 2021?
I wish.
A fight for me to make, but yeah, there's a lot of hurdles, aren't there, John?
There's a few fights that I want to see in 2021 in women's MMA, and Shevchenko and Nunes is one of them. Cyborg and Kayla Harrison is another one, and what is it? Jean Warley rematching Joanna Jędrzejczyk. That's the third fight that I want to see in women's MMA this year. I want them to book those fights, right? Even though the Wei Lee fight probably won't happen, and most of these fights probably won't happen, and it probably doesn't really make too much sense. But it's just, for me as a fan, I would like to see those matchups. And yeah, man, it's just that's what I want to see. That's what I want. But Shevchenko Nunez, it doesn't seem like they're too in love with Shevchenko fighting Nunez again. Especially Dana White, he's never said like, "Oh, I like to see that fight happen." He's always said like, Nunez is, Nunez. I don't know, man. Like, if Nunez wants to complete her career, I think that she needs to fight Shevchenko. I don't know, she doesn't need to, but it'd be nice to fight Shevchenko one more time just to put the stamp on it, right? Because there was that doubt, the people saying that she lost the second fight, right? There was a lot of people saying that, and just to get the doubt away and finish Shevchenko. Shevchenko's never been finished. Let's see you go in there and finish someone that has never been finished, and it'll be fun to watch, man. I would like to see it this year, but it's probably not going to happen.
Okay, Henry Ford back in business here, asking the eye test. Says AJ McKee could dominate in UFC. What do you guys think, Drake?
Yeah, I think he definitely could. AJ McKee is a phenomenal fighter, and if I was a betting man, I would bet that he will be the Bellator champion one day. I don't know if it'll be this year. It very well could be. Pitbull is still amazing, though, so I'm not sure if I'm sold on saying he'll beat him just yet, but AJ McKee, I think it's undeniable at this point that this guy is a bona fide superstar and as legit as they come. Yeah, I think he would do very well no matter where he's fighting. And I have him in the top. I think he's around 12 for me, in the rankings worldwide right now. The guy is very good. I will be surprised if he is not a champion by 2023. Let's put it that way. I'll put a time on it there, but yes, I think he could definitely dominate the UFC.
I'll throw this one as well to you, Drake. I think we talked about it. Another from McGregor. The probability of seeing Tenshin and Takeru in the next 3 years. It's going to happen at some point, right?
Boy. Boy. We hope so, man. I don't know. It's looking like we're seeing some, roadblocks here, which is a bummer after the hype from New Year's Eve, but to be expected, don't get your hopes up in these crazy times in the world. But we are making some clear progress, obviously, but in the next 3 years, what is the probability? Percentage-wise, I will go. I'll give it a solid 40. I don't have a lot of faith in, to this fight in particular because we've talked about it for so long. But the fact that we actually have some real momentum right now might not be as much as it was looking like, but it's better than nothing, right? We have a pretty good foundation to build off right now. I think that it has to happen. It has to happen for Tenshin more than anything. If we're going to look at each side of this equation here, he needs this fight to, not to solidify anything, but it's the last thing. It's the last thing for him to do, which is crazy because he's not even 23 years old yet, right? So, yeah, I think it has to happen unless he just decides, oh, well, whatever. He doesn't care about it at some point, but I'll give it a solid 40 to be optimistic.
Okay, well, what about we had another topic I think we wanted to discuss today, and we may as well get to it. Robert Whittaker. So Dana White has basically said Whittaker needs another win if he's going to get a title shot. Do you guys agree with this? I find it quite tough. I mean, who else is there for Bobby Knuckles to beat, John, in that division? I know Izzy's going up. He's going to fight Jan Blachowicz, so there's a bit of a hold up. Do you do some kind of interim thing with Whittaker, and then it's up to Adesanya if he wants to come back down and defend the belt?
You would think if, when Adesanya moves up to light heavyweight, that it'd be working out for Whittaker more than anybody, for him, right? It'd be benefiting him more than anybody, right? But it's not benefiting him at all, man. Like, since the Adesanya fight, right? He's beaten Darren Till, he's beaten Cannonier, both unanimous decisions, both fights he dominated basically, right? And then before the Adesanya fight, he won like 5,000 fights in a row, right? At middleweight. That's just exaggerating, but he's beaten the best of the best, man. If you look at who he has beaten, like Yo Romero back to back, Jacare when Jacare actually knew how to fight. Derek Brunson, Uriah Hall, Tavares, right? It's kind of crazy that Dana White is saying this, but it just shows you that Dana White is he's all about the guys that's gonna sell pay-per-views and all about the guys that are gonna work with the UFC to promote the UFC more than anything. And it's not just about fighting. It's not just about fighting. It's about your marketability, how you can be marketed in your demographic, in your area, in your country, and how much effort you put into that. Like, do you put a lot of effort into helping the UFC out? And you know, and I think that plays a factor in a lot of the stuff that's going on with Dana White and his relationships with a lot of these fighters. But that's Dana White. He's the businessman. That's what he's going to look for, and that's why he's saying these things. In my opinion, that's what he's saying these things. Is he sees, you know, who else do you see fighting for the vacant title? Because they should have a vacant title, right? Because Adesanya is going to be gone for a little bit, right? So they should have it. If Adesanya stays a little bit longer at light heavyweight, they should have a vacant title, or not a vacant title, interim title. And it's a good idea. I think Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker is not a bad idea. You know, even though Paulo Costa is coming off a loss, but it's his first career loss and it's against the champion. So let's see. You know, they've never competed, so I like to see that fresh matchup. And if there's a title on the line, that's even better. But it doesn't seem like Dana White wants to do that, right? But with Dana White, you never know. You know what I mean? Like, he's gonna say one thing, and then 3 weeks later, oh, we're putting an interim title on the line between Robert Whittaker and and Paulo Costa, right? It's just this. You don't know what's a negotiation tactic. You don't know what's real or what's fake. But it's sad to see, though. You know what I mean? Because I think it's happening to Volkanovski too now. Because they're kind of like similar champions, right? They're guys that go in there, get the belt. All they do is win. They're not trash talking anybody, and they're beating pretty much the best of the division, and they will fight anybody. It's not like Whittaker was a guy that was like, oh, I'm only gonna fight this guy. They never asked for money fights. They never asked to go up a division to fight the champion, you know, in another weight class. They've never done any of those things, right? And it's almost like, if you don't do that, then it's like, why are you even the champion nowadays, right? Don't you think, Drake?
Yeah, a little bit, man. It just this whole thing with Whittaker right now is kind of funny because if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that this guy was a former champion by how he's being treated here. Like, the guy was one half of the largest attendance of all time in the UFC. Like, show some respect, man. Come on, give him some love, throw him a bone. Yeah, that's a great point though, and the fact that he's one of those kind of old school traditional guys, the mindset of, yeah, I want to dominate my weight class and, you know, break some title defense records for a change. Nobody wants to do that anymore. What's wrong with you guys? You know, like, it's not as alluring, I suppose, for Dana these days anymore. Maybe it's safe to say, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him, where he's forced to maybe fight Vettori or Costa. I think either of those are obviously very fun fights, but dangerous ones, of course. Interim title, I don't know about that. I think that it definitely depends on if Adesanya wins. I mean, we got to think this fight was booked for what, March? So I mean, that's not very far away. That'll be coming up here. He loses. Of course, he's not sticking around light heavyweight. If he wins, well, then he's the champion. Then you can, you know, talk about making interims and everything like that. But I've never been one to want to jump onto those immediately, so I am fine with waiting here a little bit. Just kind of depends, I think, when Whittaker is going to want to come back and, you know, maybe risk this potential title shot. I'm sure he'll get skipped over for somebody if he doesn't take a fight, right? It'd probably be Vettori. So weird times at middleweight. I'm not even a big fan of, you know, Adesanya going up and having this champion versus champion fight when Glover's on this ridiculous resurgence right now. I would love to see him, you know, take that fight with Blachowicz, which he very well could win. That's a winnable matchup for him, and so it sucks we don't get to see it. Maybe we'll see what happens, but just it's kind of making an unnecessary mess of things, I would say. But of course, I've seen in some questions in here in the comments, you know, it's ultimately hoping to lead to that Jones versus Adesanya mega fight. You know, that's the hope for the UFC.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on that in a minute. Great job, guys. Glad to wake up some MMA talk, says Billy. Thanks for joining us, Billy. Hope you enjoy it.
Billy Hicks, my favorite comedian. Well, that's still Hicks.
He's alive.
Yeah, he's alive. Are you there, Billy Hicks? Come on, tell us where you're at. Are you in Texas?
Eddie the Blasian, what's up, Eddie? One of our long-time commenters here, asking, is there an assumption that Adesanya will not make it back down after the 205 bout? John, do you think, is he staying up there? Is he going to come back?
It all depends on the outcome of the fight. I think that's where you're gonna see where he turns his career. Is he gonna elevate his career up in weight, or he's gonna go back down and defend the title at middleweight? It all depends on what the result is with Jan Blachowicz. I feel like if he goes in there and dismantles Blachowicz, he's just gonna move up. He's gonna either defend the light heavyweight title, or he's just gonna go up to heavyweight, and he's gonna look for the biggest fights. One thing that I think that we're not seeing about Adesanya is if he continues winning, he doesn't have many fights left in the UFC. I feel like he'll have like these major blockbuster fights, either it's title fights or money fights. And if he continues winning and he has the possibility of retiring undefeated with wins over like the light heavyweight champ and maybe a couple heavyweights, or even winning the heavyweight title, I could see him stepping away like with just everything. Imagine like if he won, this is crazy to say because it probably will be impossible to do, almost impossible. But if anybody's going to be able to do it, it would be Izzy, right? That he wins the middleweight title, moves up, beats Jan Blachowicz, and wins the light heavyweight title, and then moves up immediately to heavyweight and fights whoever is holding the belt at that time. And I think the UFC would push for that. That's the crazy part. They would just jump everybody else. And you know, most likely won't happen until 2022 because they're going to let Jones fight for that title no matter what. And if it works out perfectly.
You imagine Jones, Adesanya at heavyweight of all places.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a possibility if everything works out. Because in Dana White's brain, and if I was Dana White's brain, inside his brain, I think that's what he's envisioning. That would be the perfect result of all of this, is him, Adesanya, continue to win, moving weight, getting bigger, and then going up and Jones winning the title. And then the first title of defense would be against Adesanya with the light heavyweight belt. And if Adesanya goes up there and beats Jones and holds 3 belts consecutively, come on, man. Like, he's the greatest of all time, dude. Like, there's not even a competition. Like, there's like Adesanya, and then like there's 10 miles behind, and then there's the next guy, right? Like, you cannot. And then he retires undefeated with all the belts. He's gonna go off and become a Avenger or something, like a movie star or something, right? Like that's the type of guy that I see in Adesanya. I see that star power, and he's managed by Paradigm, so you know they got connections to all kinds of stuff, and they're probably working on stuff that we don't even know about. And he's probably turned down a bunch of movies. I think he said that before in an interview, that he's turned down movies and TV because he wants to concentrate on fighting. But those doors are going to be always open for Adesanya. He just has that star power. He just has that. No matter what he goes into, any kind of entertainment, he's going to draw people to it. So I'm just thinking way too far ahead right now. But I feel like, yeah, Adesanya, he is the biggest cash cow right now. Like, Conor is cash cow, but this guy is going to be crazy if he continues winning. Like, if he continues starching people that people don't believe that he'll be able to starch, and he's been doing it for a long time. Man, the sky's the limit. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that would be the first triple champ, right? If he has 3 belts, unprecedented. That was what I was thinking. If he takes out Blachowicz and maybe Jones gets Stipe or Francis, and then end of the year, Adesanya, Jones for the heavyweight title. Jones is your new heavyweight champ. How is that the biggest fight ever in UFC history?
Yeah,
it has to be.
Yeah,
it has to be.
Easily. And imagine if like crowds are actually back by then, like a full arena is you're able to have full arenas by that time, by the end of the year, because it lines up good, right? March, you got Adesanya fighting Jones. You got a Stipe fighting Ngannou in like April or something like that, May or whatever, and then they fight, and then you could have Jones fight whoever the winner of that in late summer, and then that lines up the end of the year, right, or beginning of next year. Jones versus Adesanya for the heavyweight title if it all lines up perfectly, right? And we're doing the UFC's job for them, right? I don't know. I think Dana White's watching us right now, and he's just writing notes because we're just doing it for you, Dana. And and hey, Dana, when's Dana gonna come on the show? That's what I'm wondering.
You need the link.
Yeah, the link. Like, if you watch it, we gave you the link. Get on here. Like, we got some questions for you. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, like it's exciting though. Like that aspect is very exciting for like a fan to just think of that and say it's probably not going to happen, but it's exciting to just think about and kind of fantasize on. And where this all started from was us talking about Whittaker.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Whittaker, man. Whittaker is getting screwed. And,
we just screwed him too.
Okay, well, MD has helped us out with a timely comment about Whittaker. How is it possible, he says, or the Dana said Whittaker needs 2 or 3 more fights for a title shot. He just beat number 5 and 3. I think he only said 1. I'll bring up the article here. I think we can see. His quote is, I don't think he's going to get a title shot next with Laura Sanko on an ESPN Plus fan Q&A. He'll have to fight somebody else first. It's going to depend on what happens with Israel and Hyon. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think he just meant 1 fight, not multiple fights. And I think it was Chris in the comments here who has said, what about Paulo Costa? Is that an acceptable one, guys? I don't know. Costa's coming off the loss to Izzy. Does he deserve an immediate chance to get another title shot?
I think so. I mean, you got to look at Costa here. It's one of those things where, yes, he just lost in pretty bad fashion. Got shut out, the equivalent of a shutout in football in MMA here, where he didn't really land a single strike and got put away impressively. But that's his only loss. You look at everything he did before that, who he was beating. The guy is very good, and he doesn't lose very often. Obviously, to go and fight Whittaker, logical matchmaking. I think it's the best fight to do right now if Whittaker isn't going to get a title shot, and to further help establish him stay in the spot that he is at. It only further cements it if you can beat him. Somebody who's only been beaten by Adesanya. If Costa loses to Whittaker, it hurts. Of course, hurts his stock, but not as bad as if he lost to somebody who isn't a former champion. Then his only 2 losses would be to literally the last 2 champions. And depending on what fashion that the loss would be in, I can't imagine it would be nearly as bad as the Adesanya one, because that was just a special performance and everything, and styles make fights, yada yada. Yeah, but anything past that or anything else, I don't know. Of course, that's a very risky one for Whittaker to take, but I think, and then of course, if Costa is to win it, then he takes out the former champ, like I said, and puts himself right back there. But having had that really bad recent performance against Adesanya, he would have to climb a little bit still. He'd have to put together at least like 3 fights in a row, I think, 3 wins. So it would shake things up and probably be better for the division while Adesanya is potentially away and still holding that belt. So it creates for an interesting dynamic, which I think is a reason enough to do it, especially considering what's happening right now with the champion. So yeah, that's my take on it anyway.
Okay, John, care to join in, or are you got anything else to add?
If you look at the middleweight division, right? Adesanya's the champ, of course. Robert Whittaker's most likely the number 1 contender. Then you got Paulo Costa, you got Cannonier, you got Vettori, you got Till, Hermanson, Brunson, Holland, Hall, Gastelum, right? And then when you look at who Whittaker has beaten and who he has fought, he beat Cannonier. He hasn't fought Vettori. He beat Till. He hasn't fought Hermanson, but Hermanson just got beat by Vettori, right? So you either have him fight Vettori or Paulo Costa, because if you look at the rankings, that's what makes sense, right? To actually fight each other. And even if it's for, most likely it's not going to be for no interim title, because I feel like lately the UFC hasn't been doing interim titles. When's the last time the UFC did an interim title? It's been years, man. Like, who was the last person to do it?
Dustin Ogechi, they had Ferguson, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But other than that, right, it's been very rare. There was a point in time where there was an interim title for like 5 of the divisions, right? Like But
Every
now I
card.
feel like, yeah, I feel like they've learned from that situation, and they're not doing interim titles unless they really, really have to, unless they have someone that is worthy of an interim title. And the thing is, in their eyes, Whittaker is not worthy. He's not a blockbuster name in their eyes, and he's not worthy of that. So they're gonna wait and try to stretch it as long as they can until it's like they have no choice, and then they're gonna allow the Whittaker to fight for an interim title or a vacant title or whatever. But yeah, Whittaker's at the top of that division. It's very clear, and his next fight, he should fight Vettori. You know what I mean? Vettori went in there and put in a pretty phenomenal performance against Hermansson, and Hermansson's a dangerous guy, and just went in there. And one thing about Vettori, he's like Iron Man. That guy just gets punched and just keeps moving forward, man, and just throws hard, right? These are fastballs after fastballs. I'm very interested to see what he can do against like the top guys. So I feel like Vettori needs to get matched up against like Costa or Whittaker. I feel like they should push him because one thing is the UFC, they like to push the European guys quick. If you notice that, think about the champions right now. There's a lot of European champions, right? Khabib, he's European. You could say that, right? He's European, right? You could say, man, Jan Blachowicz, European, right? Who else? Who else is European?
Hyon.
Peter Jan's European, right? There's the European market is full right there, right?
Valentina,
and I feel like Valentina, yeah, man. It's like you could say, I mean, like, but I feel like if they're gonna make a matchup, Paulo Costa sounds good, but I think Vettori, he's earned it, like with that performance, and he's coming off a win, and if Whittaker can go in there and dismantle and kind of like derail that hype train that Vettori has created, then I feel like you don't even have to give him like an interim title shot. You just give him a title shot. Like he should be waiting for that next shot because there's nobody else. And then in the rest of the middleweight division, they still need to work themselves out, man. It's not like there's any clear guys up there because Whittaker has taken out almost everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, our new friend Billy Hicks, who did confirm that his father named him after Bill Hicks earlier,
All right, awesome.
says Whittaker versus Vettori for #1 contender of the belt makes plenty of sense. Van C here saying Vettori and Whittaker both coming off wins. Both lost to Izzy Costa. Costa can fight Whittaker, but coming off a loss makes little sense for interim, which might be the case if Izzy leaves. So to make it possible to crown a new champ, Vettori and Whittaker have to be the two to tango. Yeah, this sounds like this is the fight, Drake.
Yeah, no, definitely. In terms of if you're gonna do one for the title, I was breaking it down as one that would just be made in the interim. In the meanwhile, not for an interim, but yeah, if you're gonna do one in that case, Vettori has definitely earned it. And yeah, that's totally a very fine fight to make as well. And, probably more logical than the Costa one, just considering everything. But, they're both really the only two options. Vettori versus Whittaker. These guys both have their claims for the title shot. And it's kind of interesting to think that they wouldn't want to get Vettori in there maybe as quickly as they could, considering they could build that rematch. And, I didn't think so, but there are people out there who think Vettori beat Adesanya in that first fight. He definitely made it. It was very interesting, out of all the fights for Adesanya's come up and everything. Vettori gave him a good fight and everything, and he's only gotten better since then. So it makes you wonder, like, was that just a bad night for Adesanya? I kind of tend to think so, but he's gotten a lot better since then also. So it's a very intriguing rematch and kind of surprising that there's really been not much talk from the UFC, like people, saying anything about it. But the more I think about that, like, yeah, I would think that they would want to try and slot him in there against like somebody like Whittaker to say, all right, Vettori beats this guy. Yeah, he's getting the title shot next, rather than, Costa, who just was there and did not fare very well. So I think I've been swayed here that Vettori one makes a lot more sense, actually. So thank you, Fancy.
Maybe, just maybe, the UFC offered Robert Whittaker Vettori, and maybe Robert Whittaker said, why would I fight Vettori? I just beat the number 5 and the number 3 guy. Why would I fight another guy that's way down in the rankings to earn a title shot? That makes no. Maybe that's the situation right now. Maybe they're negotiating what Robert Whittaker is going to do next, right? We don't know because Robert Whittaker, he's pretty quiet about his dealings with the UFC, and Dana White will just say whatever he needs to say to get people to sign the contracts and to get what he needs done, right? So we'll see what happens. But Henry Ford, he in the comments, he's saying that Jan Blachowicz, he didn't get the push, and he was supposed to be the fall guy for Rockhold. But the thing about that is, Jan Blachowicz made his own push. You know what I mean? He created his own push by being the fall guy. And sometimes you have to do it like that. Sometimes, talking trash or creating your hype is just something that you're not able to do, but you have the skills to beat the best guys in the world. So what do? You become like this underdog, right? This guy that they're going to put you against all the top guys, and hopefully, you lose to them, but you don't. You smash them all. And that's what Jan Blachowicz did. He just smashed everybody. And I'm happy for that, man. I'm happy that he created his own hype through his fighting, not just his talking. And he's not really a talker, I mean, he's just a guy that he was a journeyman, right? He was a guy in the middle of the division like 3-4 years ago, and everybody was like, oh, this guy's probably going to go back to KSW pretty soon, and now he's the champion. So you never know, man. You got to create your own he didn't follow the script. That's right. He wrote his own script, right? He created his own drama, and now he's the champ. And now he's fighting probably the biggest name, one of the biggest names in the industry, in Adesanya. And man, he better be getting ready for this, because if he could go in there and just like put Adesanya to sleep in front of the world, it's very possible. And if he can do that, man, I don't know if he becomes a star, but man, his stardom will grow from that, and hopefully the UFC could embrace it, man. So anyways, I just went off a tangent on Jan Blachowicz.
Oh, good.
Polish
That's what we do. Yeah, we're all about the comments here. Please, guys, any more questions, comments, get them in. We'll go for another 14 minutes or so. We like to hit the 90-minute mark is the sweet spot. Exactly. One from here, from MD. Do y'all think that Max gets the trilogy with Volkanovski if he beats Kattar? Yeah. I'll throw it to you, John, first, because Ortega's in play, isn't he, with Volkanovski?
Well, that's not going to happen, because Ortega is going to fight Volkanovski. They already pretty much have that set in stone, and all they got to do is send the contracts out and it's signed. But the trilogy, I don't think it's going to happen, even if he wins. I don't think the UFC is going to push the trilogy. I think for Max to fight for the title, if he beats Kattar, this is what needs to happen. Ortega goes in there and beats Holloway, and then they're gonna line up that title fight with Max Holloway. And if you're Max Holloway, you're rooting for Ortega to win that fight, because then it's the shortest path to the title again. And then that will be a big fight because of what happened in the first fight, to see what it can happen in the second one. But other than that, man, he's got to beat Kattar first. That's another thing. He's got to beat Kattar first. If Kattar beats Holloway, I feel like Kattar will get the next title shot if Volkanovski wins, right? Maybe even if Brian Ortega wins, I don't know. But there's another guy, right? He's created his own script. He's created his own drama, his own hype. You know what I mean? Like Kattar, he's one of those guys. He's not a guy that goes out there and talks too much. He's one of those guys from Boston. He's just gonna go out there and just put his fists in your face and crush your skull. That's the type of guy he is, right? He's like the Boston Crusher or whatever he is. They always have those cool names, right? It's always Boston something, right? The Boston Crab. And remember the Boston Crab? Is that for wrestling?
That's a move.
Yeah. Okay. Back to Izzy and Jan quickly. Willie Hicks saying, what happens if Jan can take Izzy down and stay on top? His grappling's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, we saw Izzy got... he's no longer just a white belt, is he, guys? But who wins in that department?
In the grappling? I think that Adesanya's his grappling's a little bit underrated, at least from what we've seen, of course, because we know he's like the best striker maybe ever. That of course it heavily outweighs, like similar to Khabib isn't that bad of a striker. It's just that he's so dominant with his wrestling and everything he does on the ground. I don't think it's on the same parallels with Adesanya and his striking to his grappling necessarily, because we haven't seen very much of his grappling. But you got to remember, in that Gastelum fight, he threw up a triangle, like was very close and working the arm and everything. There was a little bit surprisingly something there that I would have liked to see more too, but he did not look like, a guy who had no idea what he was doing down there. So I would love to see. And I mean, it was a big improvement too from that Vettori fight, where Vettori was able to get him down a little bit and control him pretty well. Which, I don't know if that, you look at somebody like Hyon, who a much bigger guy and shouldn't have too much trouble replicating something similar to what Vettori did, despite Adesanya's improvements defensively and everything, and then that sneaky, submission game that he might possess and everything. But just with the size factor and the strength of Hyon and everything, I think he'd be able to neutralize it for the most part, unless Adesanya is some just ninja on the ground that we just don't know about yet, which is very possible, right? Like, watches a lot of anime, right? So he's gonna have that.
He has that breakdancing background, and breakdancers they're very good on the ground when they actually get training and stuff. So a lot of the Eddie Bravo guys, they were breakdancers, right? The one that uses they like to use the rubber guard and stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. Adesanya, he's shown that he has somewhat of a submission game, and I think in one of the fights, at the end of the round, he did a flying triangle, but it was so late in the round that it wasn't even close to being locked in. But yeah, I think Adesanya, if you play with him on the ground, I think he'll be able to submit some of these guys. And when he does, he eventually probably will submit somebody. Everybody gonna be like, "Oh my god," they're gonna shit in their pants or something, right? Right? They're gonna go crazy, right? Because they don't understand. Like this guy, a lot of people understand. Like the guys at City Kickboxing, they're strikers, but they've been training MMA for like years and years and years, wrestling for years, and it's just part of their routine. You know what I mean? And I feel like there's this misconception about those guys. Like the Hooker's fight coming up, he's facing a wrestler with boxing knockout power, right? And they're like, oh, he's gonna go for the takedown, and he's gonna sit on him right on the ground, and yeah, he has good wrestling, but when's the last time you've seen Dan Hooker get taken down and kept on the ground?
Not since his featherweight days.
Exactly, right? And that's when he was depleted, right? That's when he was just... It's crazy to think that he used to be a featherweight, because he's a huge lightweight. He could be a welterweight, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
He's big, man. And it's just... so many dynamics of that fight, man. But anyways, like we got some other stuff. Anyways, with the Boston stuff, like the Boston Tea Party, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Assassin, the Boston Strangler, the Boston whatever. It's like you remember in Forrest Gump, when Forrest Gump had his friend Bubba Gump? Was it Bubba Gump?
His
friend his friend Bubba, right? And he's like, oh, you could get shrimp, and there's shrimp kebab, shrimp salad, shrimp, right? He's just listing off this. That's the Boston, right? Boston everything. So you could do that. That movie is a classic. I love it.
Oh yeah, classic. We got a Bubba Gump shrimp here in Hong Kong. I haven't been for a while.
I gotta go there. Next time we go to Hong Kong, I gotta go eat there, because I've never been.
Yeah. It's up by the peak, so I can take you to the peak. Van C saying Vettori holds the key to a market UFC wants in on the Colosseum and Gladiators of Rome. Italian champion brings opportunity to market UFC as a modern reincarnation of said spectacle. I guess, guys, they can wheel out those old pay-per-view.
I was gonna say, yeah, the old intros.
Who doesn't want to see those back? Why not? Okay. Moving on quickly, we got a little bit of time. MD, Stipe and Francis too. Would love to hear from you all how you think that fight will go. Drake, why don't you start? Can Francis do anything different? Last time we saw Stipe just completely outsmarted him, basically tired him out and wrestled him for 5 rounds, shut Dana up. Has Francis moved on a lot since then? He's knocked everyone out silly, but we've only seen him for about a combined total of 2 minutes.
Right, that's the thing. Is like, I think that there's zero evidence to support that anything has really changed since then for Francis. Like he's doing exactly what he did before that. I don't know. Aside from the staring contest with Derek Lewis, which doesn't in this case, right? and he got that got that way from fighting Stipe. So how's he going to react to fighting Stipe again? This guy who he knows can thoroughly, beat him down. And man, I was very convinced. I was all over that Francis hype train. I thought he was going to take Stipe's head off. It was looking like he might do it in the first round. Got a little crazy there, but Stipe showed why he's one of the GOATs, man, and hung in there. I think it's gonna go for Stipe's way, again. But he's older now. He's been in some crazy fights and been knocked out since then, with TC, the wars with him. So I don't know, maybe his chin won't hold up as well as it did in that first fight, because he did eat some shots, as I was saying right there in the first round, which was really insane to say. If you don't remember, go back and look at that fight again, because it was pretty nuts, actually, at least the first couple rounds, until Francis got tired and everything. But yeah, I just, nothing has really changed. I don't think there's anything to support that anything's changed for Francis, and Stipe's still phenomenal, obviously, but it just comes down to if he can survive those ridiculous bombs that he calls fists. Francis does. So I'm gonna have to lean with the this time, but the first time around, I was sold on Francis.
All right, John, go ahead.
Man, it's the first fight was just the fight that you want to see. If you're ever going to show a fight of Stipe's, that's the fight you show people and say this is the best heavyweight the UFC has ever seen, because he took on the monster. He took on the guy that everybody thought no one's going to beat. This guy is going to take everybody's heads off. He puts your chin to the back of your neck, right? It's just, that's what we thought. All those like promos that they were making of Stipe, everybody was eating it up all day, every day. And I'm pretty sure 99% of people were thinking that too, except for Stipe's camp. And Stipe, what did he do? He goes out there and he shows that veteran savvy. He shows that chin, and he takes over in after a couple rounds and wins that fight easily after the first couple rounds. But both those guys took damage in that fight. After that, we haven't seen much of Stipe, like you said, or much of Ngannou, like you said, about his wrestling, with his takedown defense. We haven't seen much from him, right? And his camp, I've talked to his coach before, and they're saying, man, his takedown defense, his wrestling is getting so much better. He just hasn't have to show it to you yet in the octagon, and that's why we don't know. But with us, we're always speculating, right? We're always speculating, like, is he training? Is he not training this? Is he getting better at this? Is he not getting better? We don't know until it actually happens, right? So with that said, I'll ride with Stipe on this, because we don't know until it actually happens, right? We know that Francis can go in there and throw bombs, but at the same time, I can see Stipe, on top of being tough and being one of the best, he's also, his mind, man. He can stick to the game plan. He can make adjustments throughout fights. We've seen that in the DC fights.
Yep.
With the body shots, right? Like the first couple of rounds, it wasn't working for him. DC was beating him, right? And then he came back and found this, like, the golden punch, right? It was like the golden punch, and it was like a video game, right? Like, he found that one sweet spot, and he just kept on pushing the same button over and over again. Like, you're just going really hard like an arcade, right? Yeah, spamming them, right? And I loved it. And I think, like, Stipe, that's the difference maker for him in the rematch. But man, Ngannou's gonna go there and throw bombs again. He is, and it's just like one punch. That's all it takes. And this is a fight I would never bet on, right? It's just, even if it goes out the first round, I think Stipe, his conditioning is better now. He has a whole different set of coaches, and he's been like, he has the science too behind him too, right? Because he's been at the PI for like years now since that fight. So you don't know what kind of fighter he is. He could be in the fourth round and still carry that power. And then he's got a coach at Extreme Couture that set out these game plans, and maybe he's going to be able to follow it this time, and he's not going to go and throw bombs. He's going to be more technical against Stipe. I don't know, but what I know is Stipe is Stipe, and Stipe has shown us what he can do, and him making adjustments and him fighting DC 3 times and showing us that he could do it against probably one of the best to ever do it, right? With just full-blown martial arts skills like DC. He's one of the best, I think. Yeah, I'm taking Stipe. I don't know why I rambled about that.
Okay, well, we do have some other questions, but I'd like to offer my guests and co-hosts a chance to escape if they need to. If we don't want to answer them. I got
No,
more
I think
time.
we should do if Drake is cool, we could do like 2 more questions.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, okay. Let's have a look here.
Please don't.
Following
Let's not
on.
do the Joe Rogan and
Yeah.
one. Let's not get into that. 'Cause
Okay.
we might be here for another half hour on that.
Hey, shameless plug. I did a video about Rogan on the Body Lock, which got a lot of heat on it. But if you want to hear my opinion, go check it out.
I'm gonna check it out right after this. We get off here. I'm gonna go look at that one.
It's got a lot of views and comments.
Okay, go look at that. Comment from Eddie Blasian here. It says the Black Beast got more of a chance against Stipe, Derek Lewis. On the same theme, does Jones beat Stipe or Francis? And do you think he's the GOAT if he takes another crown?
GOAT, yes. I think that I'm somebody. It's funny, as we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and how I kind of prefer champions to defend a little bit more. I do heavily weigh the becoming double champ, in like the GOAT status of if you can win titles in multiple divisions. That's a really big deal, at least in my books, in terms of where you're ranking on the all-time list and everything. So for Jones to do that, especially from where he is right now, yes, I think that would probably put him at the top of my list now anyway. Even though I will admit I don't have him on my list at all because I don't count people who have, PEDs, PED history. So crucify me for that if you'd like. But does he beat Stipe or Francis? I don't think so, man. I need to see him against some heavyweights first of all. And I have never been sold on him doing well at heavyweight or that he'll even do it in the first place. This is the closest we've gotten to, but until the fight is made official, I don't believe he's actually going to heavyweight, man. He's talked about this for almost a decade now, and we're finally moving in the right direction, but it's been all talk from Jones. I would love to see it. Hopefully it happens. That seems like where we're going, but I don't believe it 100% yet. And against those guys, I don't know. They're just big men who are very talented. And, one thing about Jones' career is that he's been the bigger guy against practically everybody. And yes, he has beaten former heavyweights. I've actually done a piece on that too. Shameless plug. I'm not going to say what it is, though. You can find it if you really want to. But, he has beaten him. Of course, DC, a former champion at heavyweight and everything. But, of course, a smaller sized heavyweight and everything. Like Francis or Stipe, no way that they're making light heavyweight. So, yeah, I think there's still a lot of question marks. Of course, Jones is phenomenally talented and everything, but he's never been, look at just his striking in general. He's never been a power puncher guy. He's not sleeping people with one shot like almost any heavyweight can do. And sure, could he do that at heavyweight with more size on him? Absolutely, but I got to see it first. So I think that those are those are obviously the most difficult matchups for Jones. And until we see him at heavyweight, I don't know yet. I can't favor him. That's how I feel.
Okay, John. If you're John Jones, who do you want to fight more? Who are you preferring if you're having your heavyweight debut, Stipe or Francis?
You'd want to fight Stipe because Stipe is the greatest of all time at heavyweight, and you want to fight the greatest of all time while he's holding the title. If he's not holding the title and Francis is holding the title, then of course you fight Francis. But you want Stipe to beat Francis. Let's just say that. Because you want to fight the guy that everybody considers the best ever at heavyweight. And if you go in there and beat him and take his title at the same time simultaneously, that makes you that much bigger of a legend, that much bigger of an icon, that much bigger of a GOAT, right? Or what is it? Yeah, a GOAT, right? That's what you are.
No
GOAT.
G-boats.
Yeah, no G-boats. No G-oats, right? O-oats. Is that what it is? I don't know. A-oats, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just, yeah, you'd want Stipe. That's at the end of the day, you want Stipe to be holding that title when you fight them, and then you hold the title. And to be honest with you, that would be the perfect way to retire. If he was gonna think about retiring anytime soon, because John Jones is rich. He might not be McGregor rich, but he's rich. You know what I mean? Like he's made a lot of money. Imagine how much money he's made just off endorsements and all the title defenses he's had against the biggest names in the light heavyweight division. He's probably made a lot and he's going to probably make a ton of money fighting for that heavyweight title too. So if he was going to retire, but then I could see him retiring and then say, "Oh, I'm not retired," and then Adesanya fights him. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the storylines, man. It's all about like what you're gonna put out there and project. But yeah, at the end of the day, Stipe is the one you want to fight and beat.
Okay, we'll round it off here. Andrew Carnegie asking, who do you guys have winning, Burns or Usman? John, we'll go to you first.
I'm leaning towards Burns. You know why? Is because when they decided to put this fight together, Usman left the team. And I'm digging too far deep into it and thinking too much conspiracy theories on it. And I'm thinking that there's a reason why Usman left and Burns stayed. I don't know anything, to be honest with you. And I've spoken with Usman, or not Usman, but I've spoken with Burns, and he doesn't tell me anything, you know what I mean? But I'm just thinking that there's something to that. There's something to Usman leaving after being together for like 7-8 years, right? Coming up together when they were both pretty much one-dimensional fighters to become complete fighters and sparring and putting in rounds year after year, helping each other prepare for fights. And then all of a sudden Usman leaves and he's the champ. You'd think the champ would stay and the challenger would leave, right? And just train somewhere else. So I don't know. You know, it's weird, man. But I'm gonna, just because of that, just because when you look at skills, like, man, Usman he's to me, like, he has the characteristics and the skill set to be like a GSP, to be honest with you. Like, he has it. He has a chin. He has the wrestling. He has the good enough striking to back up the wrestling, right? And he has the cardio and fight IQ. But for some reason, I think Burns is the kryptonite. Like, one guy that could beat him because of all of that data that Burns has accumulated throughout the years on him. And maybe psychologically he has an advantage over Usman in some way we don't know about. But we're going to find out. And I'm going to put my eggs in my eggs are going to go in the Burns basket. And I hope it doesn't get burned. Cornball, right? Straight cornball.
This is why we write, people. This is because of phrases like this.
Well, I've also got to ask you this, Drake. Chris has asked, who is your GW coat?
The GW coat. All right,
the greatest West Coast fighter of all time.
Okay, so I think that this is a very, very easy answer, but we need to clarify. If they weren't born in the West Coast, but they live here now, does that count? What do you guys think?
I don't know. Just
no, because that would be Demetrius. That would be Demetrius. He was born in Kentucky, right? But he lives over here. It's it. But if it's not, then you could say Misha was born and raised in Washington. Benson, I believe, also. I think it's pretty easy. Well, I guess we got to count California too, huh? I'm just thinking Pacific Northwest over here with Washington fighters. But
you got Randy Couture.
Randy, Hendo,
like Dan Henderson.
Yeah, that really opens it up.
Johnson, he grew up not too far from where I grew up as a teenager.
Right.
So
he counts.
Brother, yeah,
he counts. Then it's him.
Yeah.
Okay. It's him. All right. Well, I guess we'll leave it there, guys. We could probably go on all night, but I don't want to keep you all too long. Thank you. A few new faces today in the comments, and I'm hoping you have enjoyed today's show. There'll be plenty more tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be back. We'll have a big preview for the UFC on Thursday. The UFC is back. Back-to-back shows are all coming up. It's gonna come thick and fast. Can't wait. Go check out Drake Riggs _ on Twitter. Go check out at JHK MMA. I'm Nico SCMP. Big things coming. We've had a great bunch of interviews. Who have we got next, John? I mean, you're just churning them out one by one. I'm in awe of you at the moment. I've had so many people come up to me and say, like, "Oh, SCMP, you guys are killing it." Maybe not physically, more online, but anything. And you give us any hints? Who's next? I know Andrew Whitelaw is going to have Max Holloway for us, so look out for that this week, guys. But John's always got a bunch of names in the pipeline, so I'm sure he's cooking up some more magic.
Well, I can't reveal the magic that I'm cooking up because what if it doesn't happen? Then it's like fake magic, right? Yeah. It's blue magic, right?
Blue magic.
No, but I do. I'm about to release in about an hour, I will release the Michael Chiesa interview that I did. That guy, he's fun to talk to, man. He's another Washington guy.
Yeah.
You know, so he's coming back after a year, coming off surgery, and he's main eventing against Neil Magny. I think that's a phenomenal matchup. I feel like a lot of people are underestimating that fight, man. I feel like these two guys match up really well, and we might see an interesting chess match between these two. But other than that, you know what I mean? I'm not going to say like who I have because it might not come to fruition. So just keep following us on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. East Coast time, 6 p.m. West Coast time, and on Thursday mornings in Asia. I'll do my live chat this week. I'm gonna have Jeremy Brand from MMA Soccer. If you know MMA Soccer, you should know it, because if you've been following the MMA, they've been around for a long time, man. And Jeremy's the horse. He's the lead horse there, and he's gonna come on. He doesn't rarely do like video, like podcasts. So I'm very, very fortunate to have him come on, man. So check that out, and we're gonna get into a lot of topics there. And maybe if you're a journalist or something, a guy that's just starting out, maybe you have questions, go in there and ask him, because he's the guy you could, pick his brain. But other than that, thank you, Nick, for doing what you do. Drake, appreciate you coming on every time. And go to sleep, man. Get your beauty sleep. Keep that skin looking milky smooth. And we'll see you.
I got to say, today I got ghosted by Angela Lee. We had an interview to get up. So you're right, John. You can never count your chickens. But yeah, Angela ghosting me. It's a tough one. Tomorrow, though, I'm going to have Filthy Tom Lawler. Going to catch up with him. Let's give PFL some love. Can't wait for that. But yeah, thank you, Drake. And thank you, John, as always. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will see you again next time.